Really, it's rare.
Yeah.
It's fun when I meet people with that name. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I'm just gonna see if I can show non. Okay, I've hidden non-video participants. So anybody who does not want to share their video is hidden. We won't be able to see them. So if you do want to share your video, totally up to you, but you're gonna pop up just like us. So we'll get started. There are a few more people in here. So yeah, hello, welcome to our first call about this one's about fears. And as the sun goes down, by the way, it's probably gonna peek through like right on my face, so I might look like some blinds. So sorry if that's annoying. But yeah, today we're gonna be talking about fears and fears from growing up from teenager, whatever, all the way into adulthood. And it doesn't matter, honestly, how old we are, it still freaking carries because it's stuff that like lived on and was created when we were younger, and it stays in there because our little selves are still like, yeah, that's still fucking scary for me. Yeah, I don't want to try that. No thanks. So now we do the work of like figuring out, okay, now what? So I want to preface this call by sharing that we're not broken or damaged. Like we're not defined by our past, and we're not failures because of anything we choose that we haven't accomplished yet that we should have accomplished or should know how to do. None of there's no like should really, because we're all on our own timelines. Like I there's so many things that I should have that I don't have. Like I don't have a license. I'm almost 30 years old. I don't have a license. So I'm on my own timeline. I'll do it when I'm ready. I'll do it when, I feel that I'm like, okay, right now I have some mental power to start doing that. And, for everybody, it's different things. A lot of us are starting to figure out feelings, which we should know when we're little, right? We don't fully understand feelings and how to feel them, express them, process them, work through them, work beyond them. And that's okay. It's all part of like our process. And feelings are one of the things that is or can be scary to us also. So firstly, I also wanted you to take a second to give yourself some gratitude for like who you are right now and where you are right now, because I think that's pretty cool. Like given everything that you've been through and difficulties, good, bad, confusing, you're here. You exist. You're choosing to continue to exist. And not only that, you're on a freaking call to like learn more and understand more and grow more. And I think that's also really awesome of you and really cool. And not a lot of people do that. So you really need to give yourself some gratitude for that. Um, and also nothing you've been through when it comes to our parents, right, has to really do with us, even though it feels like it because it's stuff directed at us and the way where they were treated and everything. But it's not the cause. Like we are not the cause of that. And no manipulation, mistreatment, and abuse is because we did or didn't do X, Y, or Z in the way that we were supposed to or should be doing it. It's all, to do mostly with our parents' bullshit, their own issues, and their lack of ability to refrain from not letting their wounds bleed onto us. And so now we have the work of wiping up that blood that doesn't exist, or I mean doesn't belong to us, and figuring out, okay, now what am I, who am I, where am I going, how do I get there, fuck. And fears is one of those things. So I'll start the way that the call is going to go. I'll just give you like a little outline. I should have made a PowerPoint to show you visually, but I'll do that next time for the next call. Is we're going to talk about fears from childhood that existed when we were little, then teenage fears, because it evolves after that into other things, and then how those like manifest and carry themselves over into when we're adults in our actual like life. Um, and then reframe, kind of ideas on how to reframe our mindset surrounding fears. and then small activities to do now with yourself to sort of start combating the fears that you don't want to hold on to anymore. So we're going to start with fears when we're growing up. So I'm going to share with you the ones that the kind of are the key ones that firstly I've felt, I've researched, and I've heard from people that I've worked with. And then I'm going to ask you if you can think of any other ones that you have. And also, if you're wanting to take notes, you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm going to send out a link to a document that has all the notes in it for you. So you can kind of just hang and pay attention if you want, or if you hear something that you're like, that might not be in her notes, you can write that down. So, what I have for fears when growing up, it's kind of different because we are helpless when we're little. We don't have the same amount of power or agency in the world, let alone at home. And we're supposed to have, like, our parents are supposed to be the people who empower us and make us feel like, yes, you do matter. Yes, you do have a voice. Yes, you can do that thing. And when it's the opposite of that, those are the people who you are listening to, and you think that that's true. That no, you can't do those things. No, your opinion doesn't matter. Yeah, you do suck, and it starts to internalize, and the helplessness of like, okay, who do I even talk to about this? No one's gonna listen to me, believe me, care. I'm just a kid, and that feeling of I'm just a kid is kind of scary within itself because you can't really do much, right? So it's kind of also a fear of being alone in that. And I don't know if you remember back, like even kindergarten or grade 3, grade 4, fear of like not being able to talk about things going on and not really knowing that it's even wrong and that it's something you should be talking about. Like if the fear is so deep rooted in shit, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get in trouble. There's trouble surrounding like every point of being a little kid, it seems, when we grow up with people with narcissistic parents or abusive parents, because we have to watch what we say. Because if you say something the wrong way, you're getting in trouble for it. If you do that thing the wrong way, you're getting in trouble for it. And the wrong way, by the way, doesn't even mean it's the wrong way. It can be you doing it the way that your parents view as wrong. And they could be totally wrong about what they think is right. So it's basically like you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. So getting in trouble all the time as a little kid is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Even for the littlest thing, like all like stand alone without having abusive parents. Getting in trouble as a kid is so scary. Like no matter what it is, it's so scary. And then if we think back as an adult, like the things that we were scared to get in trouble for as a kid, we're like, why the fuck was I scared about that? But it just is scary. And throw in narcissistic abusive parents. Okay, now breathing the wrong way can be scary. Now laughing too loudly is something you can get in trouble for. The smallest things, which other people would be like, "What? You can just laugh? What? You're allowed to have an opinion. You can say you don't like that." Like, no, you can't. It's terrifying to just be yourself. You can't. And we got in trouble too for even like painting our nails inside. Mm-mm, not allowed to do that. Trouble. You have to do that outside. Um, did you want to share something, Tamara? I saw your mouth moving a bit. You got to unmute. Sorry.
I was just agreeing with you. Just
Oh,
felt,
okay.
yeah, like you can't have an opinion. You can't share your opinion. You don't have a voice. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you. Um, and that goes hand in hand with, like all roles of children growing up with narcissistic parents, like golden child, scapegoat, invisible child, like all those things. There's something that each person or each role is going to get in trouble for. Scapegoat gets in trouble for like everything. Just existing, you're going to get in trouble for that. Um, Whereas golden child, like, you will get in trouble if you're not perfect, if you're not, you don't get high grades, you're not in very extracurricular, you're not doing this, that. You're not fully copying or being the person that your parents want you to be. You could even get in trouble for being close with your scapegoat sibling when they're in trouble. How dare you be kind to them, be nice to them when they're the ones in the doghouse right now? Excuse me, now you are also in the doghouse. And that causes rifts and siblings. So many rifts and siblings. This triangulation is like wild. So it also makes you fearful of being close with your siblings. Thinking about, am I saying, should I be sharing this information with my sibling? Or your parents tell you, hey, your sister said this, and you just believe it. And now you're pissed off at your sister when it's totally made up. But are you going to go and confront your parents and ask them, hey, is this true? But no, no, because now you're in trouble again. And in that, you're alone and isolated too, and incapable of talking about your feelings with anybody or even understanding the feelings in the first place because you're scared to even have them. Um, Also, making a mistake, how dare you make any mistakes, like, at all? You're supposed to know how to do everything perfectly the first time, even as a little kid. Um, Taking up too much space, and I mean that physically and metaphorically, or figuratively, is that what it is? Um, Taking up too much space, like, if you're gonna watch TV as a family, right? On the couch, there's no way you're gonna sprawl out and hang while we're watching TV with the family. You you take up just the space that you have. You don't wanna be too loud, you don't wanna, be where the remote is because that doesn't belong to you. You're not allowed to watch what you wanna watch. You're not allowed to look at anything, you're not allowed to ask to change a channel or touch this thing. Nope, that's not yours. And you better not be in the seat that that person wants to sit in either, because that doesn't belong to you. And if you are, you better move your ass or go to your room because you're not gonna join in on this because you just fucked up the situation. You just pissed me off. And that's so much fear. Everything is fear around it. Walking into a room to get a snack because you're hungry. You were not told you could get a snack. You were not told that you could walk into the kitchen right now. What time is it? Even if it's the time to eat or lunchtime, nope, I didn't tell you you could do that. And it's just it's insane that how deeply intricate these fears are, even as a little kid. Making choices, not being good enough, being hated by your parents or other people in the family, or being told, whether it's true or not, that other people in the family think this about you, that about you, your friends don't like you. They're just around you because they feel bad for you, and it starts to really get into your head and you think these things are true. Um and weirdly enough, the fear of worrying about your parents' safety, especially the enabling parent who, for me that was my mom, and constantly worrying about her safety. Is she okay? Is she sad? Is she being hurt? Is she being cheated on? Is this happening? While they're not caring about your safety or what you're going through. So that's kind of like the beginning of us letting go of giving a shit about ourselves and our feelings and our thoughts and our safety at that point and our boundaries because we learned like that doesn't really matter. What matters is thinking about my parents, making sure that they get what they want, that their feelings are calm so that there's not a blow up, and if my enabling parent is safe or not. It's a constant thinking about other people, other people, other people. And that carries on. And then as adults, we're kind of scared to start opening up ourselves and learn about ourselves and take time for ourselves and think about ourselves because it's unknown territory for the most part. We don't know how to do that because we're like, I haven't practiced this that much. And so many times where I have taken time for myself, I, once again, got in trouble for it. Why are you sitting there and doing nothing? There's other stuff you could be doing right now. You're a break? What do you need a break from? Your life is so stressful, isn't it? Oh, so much stress. And it's that guilt of like, if you sit there, even just to sit there and hang out now, it can be so hard because you think like I didn't accomplish all the things that I set out to accomplish for myself today, even though that list is probably way bigger than any normal, regular human could accomplish. We're like, I didn't do those things today. I don't deserve to sit down. I don't deserve to have a treat. I don't deserve to blah, 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 which isn't true because yes, you do. Um, are there any other fears growing up that you had, like as a little kid, if you can remember?
Here to tell the truth.
Yeah.
I'm the scapegoat slash truth teller, but usually telling the truth got me in trouble.
Yep. And that carries through also to adulthood when or if, because sometimes people, even though they know the truth about their family, and then they recognize, okay, no, this is not okay. I don't want to be doing this thing. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Even still, sometimes people are so fearful about sharing that truth and talking about it in the family because of what might happen afterwards, like everybody turning on you, right? That they stay in it. It's less scary to just deal with it than to deal with the possibility of what might happen if I do share the truth and I do, have my own boundaries and take distance. Um, but that's an initial fear, right? Like it is in that moment when you're thinking about it, it is does feel scarier to tell the truth than and to just deal with it. Just sit there and deal with it because at least I have the family around me, right? But over time, it actually becomes scarier not to tell the truth and to not at the very least take your own distance and be truthful with yourself about your story and what's happened. Because at the end of everything, if that happens where you just keep your thoughts zipped and you just choose to like ignore it, it's like a whole lifetime of ignoring all of it, of having people around you who aren't really in your corner, don't really care about your thoughts and opinions. And because of that, you're constantly people pleasing and you don't share who you are, you don't explore yourself. And then at the end of everything, we still don't know who we are. We still don't have an opinion about things.
Yeah, I'm 20 years of just 5 years into trying to learn who I am. So sorry.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm the
oh, sorry. Sorry, I unmuted you.
I'm sorry. No, I said I'm that person that trying to develop self at this age is not easy. I'm mid 50s. So yeah, you guys are doing hard work now, and that's good. So yeah.
Thank you. And honestly, that's amazing that you're doing that. And like there's no timeline. Honestly, there's not because we are still little inside and we are still everything that we learned inside from the past is still there. And also, it's really difficult to think about things on a timeline when it comes to this, especially because of social media, right? And like the accessibility of information now and the developments of all of this now, like that didn't exist even 20 years ago. If you wanted to explore all this stuff, the information wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been as accessible. It you wouldn't be able to talk to other people really who get it because people don't talk about this stuff. We're very hush hush about our family and like abuse and who we share things with. And especially I would say in the last 5 to 10 years with social media, yes, social media can be a bad thing. It has all kinds of like really crappy things on it. But depending on where you choose to look and who you follow, what websites you look at, you can access information that makes you go, holy shit, that makes sense. Whoa, nothing else has until that. Wow. And then you go to comments and there's other people and you can, then they have other resources and it brings you to another thing. It brings you to another thing. And I think that's really, really cool that that's the age we're in now. Yes, there's another side to that coin, of internet and interwebs, but I think it's really helpful when it comes to people who are wanting to grow and learn this stuff now and the connections that we can be making. So I think it's really cool that you're here and that you're doing this. And thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us too, because it is scary for us too, because we're like, people think that you don't know things, right? And when you're younger and they just say, oh, your parents are just, maybe they were just going through something. They were just having a bad day that day. They were just. And we've never been believed growing up. And so now other people saying no, they were just, it's just brush it off. Just forgive them. Do the noble thing. Forgive them, which is a whole other thing on its own. I don't agree with the whole forgiving your abuser thing. That's bogus to me. And nor do I think that you need to go and forgive them in order to heal. Like that can bring you back a lot in your healing, actually, going and talking to someone who has abused you and offering them forgiveness. That conversation very likely will turn into abuse, mistreatment, manipulation, gaslighting real fast and derails like everything that you're trying to do inside. So no, I don't agree with that. And if you know who Dr. Ramani is, if you don't, you should definitely go look her up. Yes, so she's amazing, and I've learned so much from her. And she feels the same way, the exact same way. Was that an accident? She
I
feels
didn't know it was gonna float up a bunch of them.
She feels the exact same way about forgiveness and forgiving your abuser. She's like, absolutely, absolutely not. No, you do not need to do that. Um, so yeah, I freaking love her. So we're gonna move into teenage fears, because that, I feel like in adulthood that has a big role too, because it's still like you can talk to somebody who's 80 years old, 85 years old, and they're like, yeah, I still feel 19 inside. And so I feel like we're closer to our teen self inside, and that's also who's got like the angry streak too, like mad at all this shit. Um, so some of the fears that I have for teen years: fear of others finding out at school, teen angst. Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, I have like 2 full playlists of teen angst songs just to like get it out too. So I have fear of others finding out at school. I can share my playlists. I'll do that later. Fear of others finding out at school. Fear of friends. If you have friends in the first place, which a lot of us didn't, if we did have friends, we didn't really feel as close to them most times as they felt to us. Like it felt like there were people that we knew, but you can't really connect deeper than that because nobody really understood. Nobody would get it. Um, Fear of friends wanting to come over to your house and hang out. What would that look like? How would I even allow you to come to my house? I know that you're not even allowed at my house, and if you are, I don't know what you're going to see, what you're going to witness. And if things go well, like if everything is like hunky dory, nothing happened that day when they came over to my house. Now you got to live with the, oh, right, but that was all fake. I had to watch my parents be super nice to my friend. And now that they're gone, I get the shitty end of the stick now. I have to deal with all this stuff. I have to deal with now they're annoyed that they were entertaining my friend. Or you sit there and listen to all the awesome things they think about your friend. And it's in stark contrast to the things that they say about you and think about you. So inviting friends over is like a intricate thing within itself too. And then the fear of having to reject them, right? Like if someone's like, hey, can I come over after school, or can we have a sleepover? Can we hang? It's also scary to say no. Like, no, that can't happen. No, you can't come over. I'm sorry. And then the why follows it. Like, oh, why? How are you going to explain that? Because at the time, right? Like, we still don't even understand fully why this person can't come over, or what's going on at home that's really not okay. It's just a feeling of something's not right, even though it feels normal, but not normal. It's very confusing. And so how do you explain that to another person and a friend from school when you don't even understand it for yourself? Um, Not fitting in or being understood is a huge fear. Like when we're teenagers, that's a huge thing. Fitting in, right? You want to people to like you. You want to understand, yet feeling needy. Yes, feeling needy. Oh my gosh. And which is so silly, right? Because as a teenager, as a human, you have needs that need to be met. And it doesn't mean you're needy, it means you're a human that has human needs that need to be met. And that's just how humanness is. And we're made to feel so bad about having these needs. And they're not even like outrageous needs. It's like need to connect, a need to talk about your day, your crappy day that just happened. Your need to feel safe having a meal. Like, these are basic needs. And even at our basic needs, we feel needy. Probably still, right? A lot of times we still feel needy if we're like, hey, can I can I talk to you about what I'm going through? Like, you feel like a burden, such a big burden to talk to anybody about things you're going through or that are happening. Um, and even if you're tired and you're like, oh, I just really need a nap, you feel needy because you're like, I'm so lazy. How do I need a nap? Why do I need to sleep? Why do I need to rest? And that can be taking away from your partner, right? Where that's what we tell ourselves. Like, if I need to take a nap because I'm tired, that's needy because my partner or the person, your roommate or whatever, now needs to wash the dishes tonight because I need to rest. That's not needy. That's being a team. That's being a person and a human. And I'm quite sure that when another person has needs around you and they need to talk about something, they need a hug, they need to connect, they need a nap, they need any of these things, it's like, yes, 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 go for it. For sure. Yes, do that. You want to talk? I am here for you. Let's talk. You need a hug? Let's hug. If you feel comfortable doing that, because a lot of us sometimes are learning how to connect with touch because we didn't get that as kids and hugs as kids. Um, but when other people need things, we're so quick to jump on it, and we would never call them needy at all. And if they said to us, "Oh my god, I feel so needy," we'd be like, "Shut up! Like, you are not. You're just being a person." But when it comes like to ourselves, everything feels like, oh, we're so needy. I don't want to be a burden to that person. And we need to start treating ourselves the way that we treat others in those cases. And that's something that we've heard so much in our lives. Treat yourself the way you treat others, and you have to be a best friend to yourself too. And if I think it goes like this for most of us, like, yeah, okay, whatever. But we gotta stop it and let it sit there because it's true. And we deserve to like not let it escape us and be like, hang on, let me listen for a second because I am also a person. And I've been through a lot of shit. I don't think it's needy for me to wanna talk about that, or to have someone to connect with, or to have ask someone to help me make a meal because I am just so exhausted. That's not needy, and I need to be nicer to myself in those moments, Um, because we forget a lot. Okay, what else did I have? Fear of rejection. Huge, that's huge, and that's also, following that, fear of being abandoned after rejection is terrifying, uh, because for a lot of narcissistic parents, abusive parents, things are always like being dangled, and can be taken away from you at any moment. Everything. Your freedom, your privileges, the things you have, even if you're the person who bought them yourself for yourself. Nope, you live in my house. I can take that away from you. Anything, it doesn't even matter. That person, they could be nice to you 1 minute, right? But oh, you didn't do what they wanted that day. So now I'm not going to talk to you for 3 days. You just lost all connection with me. And it's terrifying. And that happens too, like with friendships, relationships, work, constantly fearful of not being good enough, doing the wrong thing, of being rejected because you didn't live up to their expectations or whatever they wanted. And then what happens after that rejection? Are they going to leave? Are they going to care about me anymore? Do I matter? And then what do you do with that after? So it's the unknowns of what happens after rejection, I think, are scarier than the rejection itself. Um, but rejection is cool. It's a good thing. And it took me a long time to like realize that, but that also firstly means rejection from that person. That means that that person has opinions and thoughts, and they know what they like and don't like, and want and don't want. And if they're saying, no thanks to something, I'm like, okay, good for you. You have like your own individual thoughts and everything. That's cool. And if I'm being rejected from something, even if it's just like an opinion that they're like, no, actually, I don't agree with that. Now you get it. Now that's like an opportunity to practice. And it kind of like excites me now because it makes me go like, oh, am I going to be okay? They said they don't agree with my opinion. Okay, how does this feel within me right now? I'm still alive. My brain's still working. I still have some thoughts going on. I still don't actually agree with what you're saying. I'm pretty sure I still agree with what I'm saying. So that means that I'm solid in my own thoughts too. Huh, I can move forward with this. And sorry, if the other person who's, let's say it's an opinion, right, doesn't agree with your opinion, and you take that time to like do everything I just said, be like, oh, it's okay, cool, I can trust yourself, yes. I can trust in myself that I'm allowed to have an opinion that you don't agree with. Now, you get to see how that other person deals with the rejection that they just gave you too. If they can't accept that you have your own opinion and it's okay that it's different than yours, and they have a big tip about it, or they don't talk to you after that about it, thank you. You just showed me that that's the effort I don't need to put into somebody anymore who is going to just like that because we have differing opinions. That's not really someone I want to have around me anyway and grow with and put effort into. And I know that you're not going to continue putting effort into me because you just poof in a second based on one little thing. So thank you. Thank you for showing me who you are. I'm going to trust in myself and continue to move on. And you will find people who reciprocate who you are, um, which is why it's so important, like you were saying earlier, to find out who that is, like finding out who you are, find out what you like, what you don't like, try new things, make mistakes, go and, I don't know, try rollerblading. Oh, you suck at it? Okay, whatever. Don't need to do it anymore. But maybe you met a cool person at like a rollerblading club or the rink or, you know, um, finding out who you are and what you like and your non-negotiables in life and what really matters to you is important because once you have kind of the gist of that, now the people that you're wanting to be around changes. And if we don't like take time to figure out those things about ourselves, the people that we're around are not people that we really vibe with or gel with. It's just people that we're around because we need to be around people. And we're so fearful of the abandonment, of rejection, of like not having those people around that we kind of stay in it, which keeps us from really connecting to other people and ourselves because we're not being who we are. we're being who we think we need to be around this conglomerate of people that we've just known for X amount of time. And it's also scary to sit in the loneliness in the middle of it when we're learning who we are and learning about all the shit that's happened in the past, and that had doesn't really have anything to do with who we are or anything we did or didn't do. It's just they got their own stuff they're dealing with or not dealing with, and then just bleeding it onto us. But in the middle of where we're learning and growing and all that stuff, it can be freaking lonely because you're not as tolerant anymore of the way that people treat you. And you're not going to sit there and not have any boundaries at all anymore. And people, especially people you may have known in the past, don't like that. You'll start losing friends. You'll start losing family members, especially if you're speaking your truth, right? Because now there's smear campaigns happening and people are being told lies about you or exaggerated stories that are not really true. And your circle starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And you begin thinking, what's wrong with me? Why is everyone leaving me? Why don't you care about me? And again, it doesn't really have much to do with you. That's other people's shit that they haven't maybe recognized yet, aren't working through, are projecting onto you. They're not able to respect your boundaries because or understand them because of their own stuff, you know. And the longer we're in this circle in the middle, the longer we get to know ourselves, and the more we get to know ourselves, I mean. And then slowly, the circle will open a little bit, and then there's a person you're like, hey, we vibe together. Oh my God, you like all those things too? What? Where have you been all my life? You are so cool. What the hell? Let's hang out. Let's be friends. Let's text. Let's whatever. And then now you have that connection. But you wouldn't have connected to that person who is so much like you if you didn't do the weird uncomfortableness of being lonely and getting rid of the people who don't serve you anymore and figuring out who you are, because that other person knows who they are too, right? And they want people who are like them, who understand and who know who they are and have the same likes. So yeah, that loneliness happens, and then you meet another friend, and then that friend might be like, oh my gosh, like come to my pottery class because I have a couple people there that you might vibe with. And then now you're in a pottery class and you have two more people that you're like, oh, this is really cool stuff. Like, what? Where have you guys been? This is what? And then you start meeting people that are more like you. And that's why learning who we are is so important. And even when it comes to careers and working and relationships, and how are you going to know what you're passionate about unless you try new things, unless you figure out who you are, unless you make freaking mistakes and allow yourself to make those mistakes and not be as fearful in the unknown of what making a mistake could lead to. Because yeah, it could lead to like you feeling crappy, but it could also lead to, okay, that doesn't vibe with me. Nope, I guess I tried that and I made a mistake so many times. I don't even like this thing that I'm doing. Let me just pivot, switch gears, try something else. And being compassionate with ourselves, like I pretend that I'm a little kid all the time when I make mistakes, or if I try something I don't like it. So that's all part of growing. Good job. You found something you don't like. Good job. You made a mistake. How are we going to move on from that? How are you going to choose? Like, what are you going to choose to do next? You're going to choose to do it this way, that way. Ooh, still made a mistake there. Okay, let's pivot, right? Think about yourself as a kid coming up to you like, oh, I just dropped a mug and it broke. Would you scream at that kid and be like, yes, that's because you are X, Y, and Z and you can't do anything right and you break everything? Probably not. You're probably gonna be like, well, that sucks. We made a mess. Let's go see how we can fix this and clean it up. We might not be able to glue it back together, and that's okay. Things happen. But we can work together, clean it up. And maybe we can go find a mug that you like even better. What do you like now? Let's go explore. Right? And just the way that we speak, yes, reparenting. Yeah, exactly. And you can say that out loud or in your own head if there's other people around and you're like nervous. But I literally talk to myself as my younger version and then also as my adult self after that. I say, it's okay. It's a mistake. We're learning. And then my adult self, I'm like, hey, we're still learning. We're redoing all this stuff. It's okay. Let's go and get the vinegar and the whatever you need to clean it up. That really sucks. Now you got to pay to buy a new one, and that also sucks. But it's okay. You just dropped something. It's not the end of the world at all. And then less and less over time, you stop telling yourself, like, you're not good enough. You're a failure. Of course you dropped that. Of course you broke that. Like that's not our own words that we're hearing. Those are words that are put in there from somebody else. So they're not our words. So we don't need to hold on to them anymore. We can speak compassion to ourselves, speak kindness to ourselves, and growth. And it's okayness to ourselves because it is. It's okay. It's fine. Feelings are fine. Breaking things, fine. Spilled shit, fine. We're just doing a human thing of making mistakes. And humanness is messy, no matter what, anyway. I also have fear of being perceived. So when we start to go into being a teenager, now you're like, oh, everyone knows that I exist. I notice that you're wearing that, you're saying this, you're doing that. I know that you're perceiving me also. Walking down the hallway in high school, that can be terrifying. Walking down the hallway, especially if you're like grade 9, grade 10, everyone's older than you. And all the words, right? All the phrases, all the thoughts that don't belong to us, like I just said, that were put in there by someone else, by our parents or whoever, those all start speaking when you're walking, like, oh my God, my hair looks like shit today. Oh, this looks like bad, blah, 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 blah. And it just keeps going through your day. And being perceived can be really scary. And it can oftentimes feel like if someone's watching you do something, a lot of us actually, I put up a video months ago about being perceived, and so many of us agree that we're scared of people watching us do things, even if we're doing it the right way, because you're nervous that they're gonna spot something that you did wrong or like correct you or judge you for the way that you're choosing to do something. And that is heavily, heavily, heavily rooted in growing up, right? Being watched doing stuff like, oh, nope, you're doing that wrong. And then getting in trouble for it. And then I got to fucking deal with that. And that's carried over into adulthood for me up until like 3 years ago. Actually, and when it comes to sharing my story, up until like 2 days ago, because I have gotten over, I guess, being perceived by others like in the world doing things. And I thought, oh, that's cool. I've dealt with that. I've healed through that. And then literally a couple days ago, I'm like, wait, but that's just me existing as in like human bodysuit that I'm not worried about being perceived as. Who I am, what I've been through, how I'm working on it now and moving forward, everything about me. Yeah, I am. I have been and still am terrified of that being perceived. And now I've said in my video, right? Like now I am choosing to not have that be a fear that takes over me anymore, because that is a fear that is rooted again in childhood, which is rooted in control from my parents. And that's me letting them still have that control over me, being scared to be who I am. And that's not helpful for me. That's not helpful for other people either, right? Like online, I've shared tons of posts and stuff about education and this will help you, and which is helpful. But I think that where we differ as far as like growing up with narcissistic parents go is we always keep things hush hush. Don't talk about things. Don't really share the actual story behind what's happened. And how is it helpful to continue to be silent on that, when that's the biggest part of our connection as survivors, as people who have and who've gone through CPTSD. Like, we have to connect, we have to talk and share and understand that, like, we are not alone at all in this. There are so many parts of our stories that are so weirdly similar that we don't really recognize until you read it or hear it and you're like, wow, same. That's insane. And which is one of the things I love about Dr. Ramani too, is because is that she talks about her experiences also and shares real experiences of other people, and on her comments and stuff on her posts, people are talking about their experiences too, and it makes you feel like, oh, I'm not alone in this, I'm not crazy. And so many of us think we're crazy, and people who I work with, that's like one of the number one things is, I'm crazy. I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like I'm making this up. I feel like, you know, no one believes me, and why should I believe me if no one believes me? And the more we share our stories, the more we can believe ourselves and trust in ourselves that no, we're not making this shit up. Yeah, I do deserve to have these feelings that I'm feeling, um, because other people feel it too. Other people experience this too, and people try to tell you that narcissistic abuse isn't real. And I've had people message me, like, so many messages saying, you know, you're lying about all this. You've never actually been abused, which is, a therapist actually messaged me one day and told me that. And I was like, wow, okay. I'm glad that I've healed enough to know that you are in the wrong by saying that, because that's such a damaging thing, especially to hear from like a therapist. And some people have to have therapy after their therapist because of the damage that they've done. But anyway, I get messages saying that narcissistic abuse is not real. There's not enough in the like therapy books and stuff that you learn from about all this stuff to have it be real. And to that, I say, well, if you look way in the past, there's so many things that people thought, oh, depression's not real. Covert narcissist crazy making. Yeah, yeah. People, you know, in the past, they would say depression isn't real. This isn't real. That's not real. Mental health, what's that? That's nope, that's not a thing to think about. And to say there's not a amount of information in the DSM-5 about this, so therefore your experience is not valid and therefore it's not real, is absolutely ridiculous. Because yeah, there is more and more and more research being done about this right now. And unless you honestly, unless you have experienced it, it doesn't make sense to people, because so much of it doesn't actually make sense. Like the manipulation and the reason why we're being manipulated in those ways, it does sound crazy if you say it out loud, right? Like sometimes, then that's the whole point. That's the whole shtick of keeping you in the abuse and manipulation, is making it seem like you are the crazy one for thinking this, for feeling these things. And also, there's a statistic, right? That's like a certain percentage. Only one in however many people are narcissistic or have narcissistic tendencies with their abuse. But excuse me, how many narcissists are going to seek help and therapy? Yeah, exactly. Wah wah wah, none. And if they do, it's sometimes, most times, it's to just to tell you, hey, I am not that because I am going to therapy. Or they just go to therapy and then walk right out. Because they're like, you just told me a bunch of things about myself that I don't agree with. I'm out of here. You're the one who's crazy, not me. And so the argument that, oh, there's not that many in the world, or there's not enough information about it from therapists, is bogus and it's stupid. And the people who we need to be listening to and learning from are each other, because we know what we've experienced. And people like Dr. Ramani and Ingrid, what's her name? You should follow her actually. Where is it? Ingrid. Ingrid Clayton, PhD. I'll put it in the chat here. She is someone who is survivor as well of narcissistic parents, and she was heavily scapegoated. I don't think she talks to her family anymore, or like her parents anymore, and she has been focusing on lasting effects, what we feel now, and how to move forward beyond it. And she has a YouTube channel where she like theatricizes, like in kind of like a funny way, uh, the things that we go through. And Magic Nick, Maggie Nick, Maggie Nick is someone to follow too. Tamara says, okay, cool. Actually, this is a good idea. If there's people that you follow that you've gotten a bunch of information from that you connect with, can you add it into the chat here if you remember their name, so that other people can follow also? Because this is like Jimmy on relationships. Yeah, he's good. He specifically for relationships. Yeah, because that's another area of where we bring our upbringing into, right? Is our partners, is into relationships and who we end up with or how we deal with certain situations. Okay, I'm going to get back to this. Another fear, what I have on here, is sharing opinions and thoughts, talking about your feelings. And then as a teenager, right, the older you get, the fear of moving out and not knowing how to step into that independence. Like maybe you haven't been taught certain things like cooking. Maybe you feel like you've been told all of your life, like you're such a failure, you're this, you're that, that you're like, fuck, I'm going to move out. How am I going to do this? I'm going to fail at this too. And if you are being financially abused as an adult, you are like moving out, you don't have access or understanding of your own money. And if your parents are helping you pay rent when you move out, now they're controlling everything. They know where you live, they control where you live, you're eating, like everything. And for a lot of abusive parents, they make it really seem like you can't do this alone. You can't do this without us. And if you do, you're going to fail. And we are going to tell you, I told you so, when you do fail. And that's that's another form like of control. They could try to control you in their house and outside of their house. So carrying this over into adulthood looks like anxiety when you get a call or a text. And this can be from anybody, but mostly from family, right? But even just getting a call or a text from anybody when you're an adult, after all that, it's like what happened? What went wrong? And even if it's nothing that went wrong, we double, triple, quadruple think about the words that we're saying in our responses, in our text messages, giving back, on the phone. Did I say that right? Are you going to take my words and misconstrue them? Like, did I say something in there that you're going to just run with and like get mad at me and be triggered by, or choose to get upset with me about? And now that's the conversation we're having instead of the topic that we brought up just now. And so your phone becomes a fear thing. And decision paralysis too, like even as small as, do I want the lights on or off right now? I don't know. And if there's another person in the room, you're not thinking about whether you want them on or off. You're like, well, do they want them? What do you want? Do you want the lights on? Do you want the lights off? What are you feeling right now? And we just totally ignore ourselves. And so making our own decisions at the smallest and the biggest is so hard because we're fearful, like, am I going to make the right one for the other person and for myself? And oftentimes we go to this person, and like ask them their opinion about what we should do in our own lives. And then even after a choice is made, we're like, did I do the right thing? And that question of did I do the right thing has so much to do with the way that other people have perceived our choice rather than us checking in with ourselves about how we feel about our choice. And that's important. Fear of being like your parents in adulthood. There's a lot of people that I've talked to that are just terrified of being like their parents, or if they, when they have children, treating their children the same way. And I will say that if you are having that fear, firstly, you're not going to be the exact same as your parents. You are, especially if you're on this call learning about this stuff right now, like, no, no way. And if you're fearful of treating your kids the same way, like about everything, that fear in and of itself, the fact that you're aware of it, thinking about it, working on it, no, you're not going to. You aren't. And if something happen, if you lose your temper, if you yell sometimes, communicate. Like the thing that I don't remember where I read this, but there's a difference like between a trauma that continues through your life and one that you heal from, and then you can just move on from it. And one of the biggest differences is talking about it. So you yell, let's say you yell and scream and you're pissed off at this, that, and you don't talk about it. Nope, that now that carries with that person, that kid, that teenager, that adult. Like, oh, that's a area of trauma that happened, and you internalize all of it. You're like, I messed that up. What's wrong with me? I'm such a failure. I'm this, I'm that. Whereas if you yell and scream and get mad that they drop something, um, which comes from your own childhood, right? Trauma. But if you sit down after with your kid or whoever you yelled at and you talk about it and you say, communicate, like communication is so helpful. Communicate, like, hey, I shouldn't have reacted that way. And I'm really sorry that I did. Can we talk about how I made you feel in that moment? Let them express their feelings. I'm working on this. How can I and we move forward together next time so that this doesn't happen? What can I do for you? Just talk, talk, talk. Now that kid is like, oh, it wasn't me. You just having some issues learning about your anger and like dealing with stuff. Okay, I'm learning about my feelings too. And oftentimes you'll have like a really cool conversation that's like blossoms and you're both understanding each other. Now, exactly, taking accountability. Now that you've taken accountability for your actions, now you're learning together. And that ball of trauma, of fear of being yelled at for that kid, now you're working as a team moving forward together. Now they understand, oh, adults are wrong too. Oh, adults make mistakes too. Oh, okay, then that means it's okay when I make mistakes. And it's just moves in a much more positive direction of connection. And so I really just want to drive that home. Like, if that is one of your biggest fears or a fear of yours of like being like your parents or treating future children or current children the way that you are treated, that fear and awareness in and of itself and the ability to take accountability and communicate, um, you're not going to be that way. And you already are on the quote unquote right track, if you want to say right track, of not turning into your parents or continuing to be like that, because you're doing the work that they firstly are never probably going to do, but maybe don't even know that they need to do because there's nothing wrong with them. Nope, not me. So having awareness in the first place is spot on. Fear of being misunderstood, of not understanding your worth, not knowing who we are. What else? Not knowing who to trust is a huge thing. Fear of not knowing who to trust as we get older. And sharing our opinions or even having one in the first place, which is why getting to know ourselves is so important too, because then you learn about what your opinions even are in the first place, and you can grow your relationship and your connections based on your actual opinions that you trust within yourself. I'm going to move on from the listing of fears now into reframing kind of our mindset surrounding it. And I'll try to be a bit quicker on the tail end of this because I'm keeping you guys from probably eating dinner and stuff like that. So reframing our mindset surrounding these fears is important because if we don't like each it's basically like a prison in our minds, all of these fears. And each fear that we have is like a bar of like our mental enclosing. And those were not, once again, put there by you. They're put there by the way you were treated, the words that were spoken to you when you were younger, and your experiences that you've had. So those bars, someone else put them in there, and unknowingly, we're living within these confines of fear over and over and over again, and it's stopping us from trying that new thing because that's outside the bars. It's stopping us from making that connection with that person because we don't think we're good enough to. So they exist outside the bars. And we only allow ourselves to experience life, feelings, who we are, who we feel that we think we are, within the confines of these fears that have been built up over time. And each time you choose to challenge one of your fears that was not put there by you, a bar starts to loosen. Now you can stick a hand through and connect to something new. Like, I'm going to try that new thing over there. I'm going to try that. And then another bar breaks free. And you're like, oh, I'm going to have positive self talk now. I'm going to be compassionate. Right? New neural pathways. Yes, exactly. And so your brain and your nervous system and your body start to learn that. And they're like, what? We can try new things. What? We can be compassionate to ourselves. What? These are new phrases I'm saying towards myself that I've not said before. This is cool. And then you become like, you're like, oh, I want to break down that bar next, and I'm going to try that. And eventually you feel so like liberated. And yes, there's going to be some bars that still exist. I mean, people are scared of public speaking or X, Y, and Z. You know, there's fears. But the fears that confine you into not being who you are, those bars start to go away. They don't exist anymore. Now you get to choose. Okay, what do I want to do now? What fears do I want to challenge with self-compassion and curiosity? And it reminds you that you have your own agency within yourself. You have your own power to make those freaking mistakes, to try those new things, to challenge those fears. And you start to let yourself be. And one of the things that you could start doing now, little thing, is do some of the things that you used to get in trouble for as a kid, but do them now. And you're not going to give yourself shit for it. Like, for example, one of the things I mentioned at the beginning, we weren't allowed to paint our nails inside, which is freaking outrageous. But when I moved out, that's like one of the first things I did. I'm like, oh, I'm painting my nails inside. I'm going to do this. Making a mess. Purposely, I know you got to clean it up after, but purposely just make a mess and leave it for like a day, unless it's water, but leave it for like a day. And then tell yourself, oh, that's okay. It's okay. It's just a mess. We gonna clean it. It's fine. Do little things that you used to get in trouble for in safety now. And it will let your little kid inside know that, oh, you are here for me now. My adult self, she got me. They got me. They're here for me. I can do this. We can do this. We got this, right? Yeah, we got this. And it's like this connection that you feel in yourself because you can just do this on your own. You don't need to be afraid to break down the bars in your mind anymore and make mistakes. So a small other thing you could do also right now is think about all the things you are good at. Because when we sit here and we think about our past things we've been through, think about like a lot of the negatives, right? Negative feelings, negative memories, negative this, negative that. Think about all the things that you are good at right now, that you have learned within yourself, for yourself, by yourself. All the things your body understands how to do naturally now, like feeling the energy of others around you. We needed to do that for survival in the past, but now, you know, it is kind of helpful to be able to know, like, when you meet someone, if you like them or not, because your body has a reaction to it. Immediately you can feel if this person is for you or not. And that saves you so much time. So many of us, like, we don't really need the small talk talking stage. And a lot of us actually hate small talk because it feels like a waste of time for us. But it breaks down that like wasted time because you're like, I know that I don't want to hang with you anyway because my body's like, no. So that's a helpful thing. Having a nervous system that's prepared for anything now. Yes, that's annoying sometimes when it alerts you and you're like, no, 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 we're okay right now. Like, you don't need to be yelling at me. I'm okay. Like, that's just a stoplight making a sound. We're not going to get, we're not in trouble right now. Let's chill. But at least they have your back. Like, our nervous system has our back now. It's prepared for anything. Appreciating little gestures in life, like those mean so much to us, and we truly, truly, truly appreciate it. Little gestures, and also knowing how to do that for others too that we care about. Knowing how to spot manipulation most of the time. And I have an ebook called Balanced Heart on my website. So it's a free download too. I don't ask you for your email, any of that, and it's in my bio. And it talks about a bunch of lasting effects that we feel and a whole on like a huge list of like ones that are good, like things that we experience now that are like good for us, that are helpful. Like, yes, we're very forgetful. Our minds, like, it's hard to remember everything, right? But on the flip side of that, a positive is we don't always remember the ending to shows or movies or books. So every time we watch it again and again, we're like, "Oh yeah, that happened. Oh, what? I forgot that happened." And it's like you're getting to watch it all over again or watch the ending all over again and be surprised. So yes, our memories suck. So this is kind of what the ebook is about. It's just a bunch of different things like this. Yeah, our memories suck, but we also get to rewatch things and be surprised. So if you want to head to my website and download that, that's there for you. And then one little activity to try before we close off. And once again, I will be DMing you a link to all of my notes here. So you don't need to remember what I'm about to say. I will send it out to you. A helpful thing to work through these fears is writing out the fears that you have right now, big, small. Think about where they might be coming from. Are they rooted in actual fact for yourself, or are they rooted in your childhood? Like, do they belong to you actually, or were they thrown at you, enforced within you? And then think about all the things you will not get to do, to be, to experience if you let those fears continue to control you. What are you not ever going to get to do or say or share or experience if you stay encased in these bars that other people place for you? And then, if the fears you've written down are coming from childhood, recognize that and start to talk to that younger self, that younger version of you, literally, like I was talking about before. Pretend that a child has come up to you and said that list of fears, or you can even go one by one. What would you say to that kid? What would you speak to them? To your teenage self, what would you speak to that person? Let them know that you're okay and that it's safe to try new things. It's safe to make mistakes and to do things regardless of fear. Because every version of you, like your younger self, your teenage self, your adult self, your 21-year-old self, everything, 30, 40, 50, older, you're all working together. Like, even in isolation, even if you feel like you have nobody else, you all have each other inside with all of your knowledge that you've learned, all your experiences, and you got it. You have each other. And I think we need to remember that we all have each other inside. We forget that. And talking to each version of that self and each versions of those fears and letting them know, like, it's okay. Yeah, it's scary, but we'll get through it. Everybody has fears. Ours are just different than a lot of people. And that doesn't mean that we can't get through them, or that we should let them control us anymore. So that is everything that I had about for our call today for fear and working through them, where it's coming from, and some activities and things. And I will send that up to you so you can try it on your own also. And if you would like free coaching about this topic or any other topic that would be helpful for you right now, I'm having a free like group coaching call just like this next Thursday, the 24th. Same time, same link, same password. So it'll be October 24th at 4:30 p.m. And if you're available, you can hop on and we'll do coaching. You can, if you want to speak or share your camera, that's fine. You can just type out your questions in the chat box, and I'll work. I'll work with you on something that you're going through or a question that you have. And if you can't make it, you can DM me the question and I will answer it on call, and then in the replay link, like you can watch it back and see the response to your question. So if that would be helpful for you, or if you just want to come and hang next week on the 24th at 4:30, I'll be here hanging out, and we can chat and talk about anything that might be helpful for you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Honestly, like this has been so cool for me and terrifying also, speaking. And but I'm glad that I, pushing through that fear of no one wants to hear what you have to say. Why would anyone give a shit about what you're speaking? That those fears exist all the time, and that's not those are not my words, and I know those are not my words. And so thank you for being here and for being you and for being part of the community on Instagram and everything. Like, I really appreciate that. And I hope that you guys have an awesome rest of your night. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.